All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're talking about the Detroit Lions. We're about 2 weeks away from the start of the NFL draft. The Detroit Lions coming off a phenomenal season, winning the NFC North. They won a couple of playoff games. They're very close to making the Super Bowl. It's a great time to be a Detroit Lions fan. They don't have too much draft capital. I believe they're like bottom 5 in the NFL in total draft capital, or draft value, I should say. You still have 7 picks. And what I do like about the Lions draft class, even though they are picking late in the first round at pick number 29, you have 3 picks inside of the top 100. And we have to keep in mind, once again, the Detroit Lions won 12 games last season. They won a couple of playoff games. So there's not crazy pressing needs, right? There are things a lot of people would take, but because of their offseason thus far, I think they've done a really good job. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. Now, I do want to just say, I was reading a PFF article. They had the Detroit Lions offseason thus far at an A-, and I want to just go over a couple of talking points. So Brad Holmes always talks about how his priority is to make this a long-term, consistently winning franchise. So this is what I heard from prideofdetroit.com. Great website. Go check it out if you haven't already. It's not a matter of trade up or let Brad Holmes cook. It's trading up is how Brad Holmes is cooked. So even though you have 3 picks in the first 3 rounds, I'm not necessarily sold on them standing pat at pick number 29. Brad Holmes has traded up for Jameson Williams, Brian Branch, Broderick Martin, and Derek Barnes. While there's something to be said about being patient and playing the board, they said we should also be at a point where Brad Holmes has conviction about a guy, trust his decision, and trade up and get him. That sounded very weird out of my mouth for some reason. But folks, before we get into today's video, if you enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Lions fans, love and appreciate you guys. As always, if we could try and get this video in the dead off season to 500 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. So here's an actual quote from your GM, Brad Holmes, who's an absolute beast, by the way. Every move that we make, it's to win in December. It's not to win in March. It's not to win in April and May, which is easy to do. You can, if that's your aim. You can win headlines, but you can win in March, April, May, whatever. But no, everything is intentional, and it may look strange. It may look like, well, why'd they do this? Why'd they do that? Trust me, it's to win in December. And so that's why we've made the moves that we have made. And look, the reality is this. Everybody can't play here. Everyone can't play for the Detroit Lions. That is just a standard that has been set. Folks, you look at this team on paper. I mean, it's just loaded. They're just littered and loaded with talent. I get it. There are some positions that you want to, either bolster or upgrade, like your other edge rusher to Aiden Hutchinson. But folks, they didn't really need to make any crazy offseason moves. And this is really where Brad Holmes, this is his bread and butter. He's a phenomenal drafter. We look at the first couple of picks last year and, Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch. These are all players who had huge impacts on their team, not only right out of the gate in the regular season, but just as Brad said, in December, in January. Like these dudes, Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, these guys, Sam Laporta, like they had phenomenal impacts on this roster. So once again, even if you stand pat, in the late first, late second, and your 3rd round draft pick, I assume that at least 2 of those 3 players are going to have day 1 impacts on this Detroit Lions team. They did pick up Kevin Zeitler at the right guard position to continue to improve your already, being generous to the rest of the NFL, top 5 offensive line in the NFL. Like they probably have the best offensive line in the entire NFC. They're closer to 1 than they are 5, in my opinion. But Kevin Zeitler adding an OG veteran to fill out your loss at that position was huge. Now, defensively, this is really where you're going to see the most moves. And I've got some great analytics from Eric Woodyard of ESPN, but just the headliners: Marcus Davenport on the edge, DJ Reader, Carlton Davis, and Amik Robertson. Now, at face value, I want to say especially DJ Reader and Carlton Davis trade, they don't look crazy. They don't seem crazy on paper. These aren't your guys who are getting you. Carlton Davis isn't coming off an 8 interception season. DJ Reader at his position, you're not going to see crazy statistics. But if you're a Buccaneers fan, or if you've watched some Carlton Davis tape, if you're a Bengals fan, or you just know of DJ Reader, these guys are absolute beasts. So once again, this is from Eric Woodyard from ESPN. In 2023, the Lions allowed 7.8 yards per pass attempt. That was 2nd worst 21st in the NFL behind Cincinnati. They also allowed 34 completions on passes over 20 yards. Only the Bengals and the Houston Texans had as many, so not good. They also allowed a 40.5% completion percentage on such pass, which was 20th in the NFL. As a whole, the Detroit Lions allowed opponents to score a touchdown on 23% of their drives, which was 25th in the NFL. Only 17% of opponents' drives ended with a 3-and-out. That was fourth worst in the NFL. So your roster was very young, right? Especially on this defensive side. You had injuries to guys like James Houston. Like honestly, the whole defense felt like they, especially your like more depth players, James Houston. You got guys like Aleem McNeil dealing with injuries. Just a ton of players on this defense dealt with injuries at unfortunate times. Emmanuel Mosley, who was re-signed, played like 2 snaps. So I get it. It wasn't great. And I do think injuries and the young and youthfulness of this roster, the inexperience, should be taken into consideration. But this is where I'll just get through these stats because it'll all come together. The Lions ranked 27th in the NFL, last amongst playoff teams in pass rush win rate at 35.8. Only the Chargers, Cardinals, and Broncos, Saints, and Falcons were worst in the entire NFL last season. Their run stop win rate of 27.2 was the second worst among playoff teams. This is where a guy like DJ Reader comes in, folks. He was huge on the Bengals defense. You ask any single Bengals fan, it's a huge loss. It's something they did not want to happen. He did get injured at the end of last season. He has dealt with a couple of big injuries in his career. But if this dude is healthy, he's going to be as reliable as possible just because of his production. And we're also going to pair him up with rising star. Yes, I'm going to use the word star for Aleem McNeil. DJ Reader, over the last 3 seasons, the Bengals have allowed just 4.1 yards per rush when he's on the field. That's 5th best in the NFL. 4.8 yards per rush when he's off the field. That's 31st in the NFL. So if you're getting a healthy DJ Reader, folks, it's looking very good. Once again, we're going to pair him up with Aleem McNeil. We're going to pair him up with Aiden Hutchinson. And then honestly, with Marcus Davenport's injury history, whatever I can get from him, I am going to take it, and I'm going to take it every day of the week. But I think just having, a good lockdown cornerback, and by the way, I do think the Lions are going to draft Kool-Aid McKinstry in the first round. With a reliable defensive secondary, you have more opportunities to blitz. You have more opportunities for your linebackers to blitz, guys like James Houston. It really gives your defense a safety net having this lockdown secondary, and it's something Detroit was just inconsistent with last season, the last couple of seasons. So altogether, I'm feeling really good about Detroit. They might not have a crazy, flashy draft. I think they're going to go with a cornerback, an edge rusher at some point, a wide receiver at some point. Wouldn't be surprised if it was in the 3rd round, but nonetheless, very good time to be a Detroit Lions fan. Let me know what your draft kind of mindset is for the next, or when we get there in 2 weeks. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and we will see you soon.